what happens now?
We'll just have a chat. As soon as Donal is ready and Jim are ready with the camera, we'll just have a chat.
Yeah,
Okay, you ready to go?
You could shout a little bit more.
No, I should be.
Okay.
We're running short.
I find it very, very hard to hear.
Yeah. Does the hearing aid help?
Yes, but
Okay, Teresa, would you tell me a little bit about your involvement with the Republican movement and your work in the Republican headquarters?
oh, I didn't come to Dublin. I'm from Kerry, and I didn't come to Dublin until March, I think, 1922. And I got work in the Republican headquarters, and I worked with Mr. David Laird was there in the offices, and Harry Boland, Carl Brew, who were the other, Austin Stack, and Ashanti O'Kelly. So we were there for some months. Everything was good, you know, the Civil War was on. And then when the forecourt was attacked, the men left the office, they went through the country, and we were left on our own there, and everything went on as usual, and then in the beginning of November 1922, one afternoon we were raided by the Free State soldiers, and at the time in the office was Lily O'Brennan. She was a sister-in-law of Eamon Kent's, and she had been out in 1916. And Lily O'Brennan, Rita Birmingham, Madge Clifford, but Madge Clifford had left with Ernie O'Malley, and they went down Wexford way, and Kathleen Devaney, who was married afterwards to Liam O'Doherty, and he was one of the prisoners at the time. So I had got, somebody had brought me in as a dispatch to take, and I did on the table, and the chap by the name of Seamus O'Brien gave it to me, and I said to him, now, when you're not handing it to me, I said, I won't take it. So anyway, he went off, and then when the soldiers burst in, I grabbed at the dispatch, and we had a grand coal fire, no central heating then, and I went up to the fire and I disposed of the dispatch. And the other girls came up and got rid of anything they had. So later on, some friends from outside, Dorothy McCardle, Madam Cogley, and Cecilia Gallagher came. Cecilia Gallagher was actually working in the office of the public, and she had a part of our office working. And they came in to help us, thinking they could do something to help, and they were held to. So we were there all the afternoon, and they went through the whole building that we occupied, and they removed everything, furniture, filing cabinets and their contents, everything was taken off. And in the evening time, when it came to tea time, one of our girls, Lily O'Brien, asked if we could go down to Roberts for our tea. It was only a couple of doors down from us at the time. And no, they wouldn't allow us out. And then they asked, we asked if we could have it brought in. And no, they wouldn't allow that. So in a short time afterwards, we were all moved. It was when the people had gone home from the offices and from the streets. We were all moved to Portobello Barracks and put into a room there with a fire. And we had to wait there until the soldiers, Major General Dalton was leading them. We had to wait there until they had their evening meal. And we got nothing. And we were put into the lorries and taken to Mountjoy prison. And Philip Cosgrave was the governor at the time, and man, they was called Paudine O'Keefe, and he went by the name of Paudine all the time. And we were questioned there, gave our names and addresses. I didn't give my address. Lily O'Brien told me to give her address, as she was bound to be raided anyway. So I gave her addresses and mine, and then we were taken up to, it was the women's hospital, the convict women's hospital, but it was empty then, and we were put into a long, what you call it, a ward, and the beds were all set out with not maids, but with two dark brown blankets and yellow calico sheets, and we had to make our beds and then get into bed. The 7 of us were put into the one ward, and before going to sleep we were talking and wondering what was going to happen. And then Madame Cogley decided she'd give us a song, and she sang, I can't remember the words, but it was a kind of a lullaby, and it was lovely, you know, soothing. And I believe the sentries the next day were talking about it. You know, they didn't expect anything like that from us. So
you were in Mountjoy when the executions happened, weren't you?
I was in Mountjoy until we were moved, I think in February, I'm not sure, we were moved to Cumann. And it was in the middle of the night too, we were moved. And I'd never forget Cumann when I saw it first. It was like what we hear as the black hole of Calcutta. Mm. It was an awfully gloomy, dirty looking place. but we were put into different cells there, and they were musty and didn't seem to have any air for months and months. And I heard one of the girls next door breaking a window because we couldn't open the windows. And I did the same to my place, and we had some air. And the following day, we asked the head wardress, could we be moved some other place? And I remember I got up to the top floor, to a cell in the top floor, and it was marked out, I suppose, by one of the men prisoners before the forecourts. And that was my cell, and the others were, then we had there were others in prison
Do you remember?
in Mountjoy before we moved. Mary McSweeney and Mrs. Humphreys and Sheila Humphreys. They were moved to us too. So we were all in Kilmainham, and it was a dreary place, and we used to have to go out through B Wing to get out to the recreation ground, and B Wing was even worse than A Wing, and our recreation yard was where the men were executed. Rory O'Connor, Liam Mellows, and they were actually executed while I was at Mountjoy. I could hear the volleys that morning and saw the soldiers coming back swinging their rifles. And then Kilmaine.
What was the mood in the prison after people realised that the executions had happened?
They were always, we never knew what was going on outside, because if there was anything in letters, it was blotted out, and we had, I must say that the head wardress, Miss Higgins, was kindly. She didn't go, do anything wrong, but she was kindly to us when we asked her anything. And several other prisoners were brought in after that until the place was full. And
you mentioned that you were refused the sacraments and refused absolution.
Pardon?
You told me earlier that you refused the sacraments and refused absolution when you were in prison.
Oh no, you see, the bishop's pastoral had come out in, I think it was October, and then if you didn't promise to obey the government of the time, you just didn't get absolution. And we were months like that until the following Ascension Thursday. We were told that priests were coming in to hear confessions. So we thought it was all just a fee. And I did, when they came in then, I did go to one to confession. And I made my confession. And then he asked me, do you believe in the teachings of the Catholic Church in all matters concerning faith and morals? I said, I do, Father. And then he said, do you believe in the teachings of the Catholic Church in Ireland in all matters concerning faith and morals? And I don't know how I thought of it. I said to him, isn't the Catholic Church in Ireland the same as all over? And then he said, no, child, I don't want to talk politics. And I said, neither do I, Father. And I knelt there, and he talked and talked and talked, and I didn't bother listening. And in the end, he turned around and said, do you believe in the teachings of the Catholic Church in all matters concerning faith and morals? I said, I do, Father. So then he gave me absolution. And we were able to receive Holy Communion after that. But it was a hard time in Kilmainham, because we could, from the top floor, we could see a little of the outside world, but those down below, it was dark all the time. And then we had a hunger strike, a couple of hunger strikes in Kilmainham, and Mary McSweeney was brought in the meantime, and Nell Ryan, she was a sister-in-law of Dick Mulcahy's, and forget who else. We also had Grace Gifford, Grace Plunkett, a prisoner, and her sister, Mrs. Wilson. And they were all wonderful people, you know, women and girls. Some of them, a good many of them were young, and they didn't care what happened. They were doing it for Ireland.
Was there a lot of bitterness between people who took different sides after? Was there a lot of bitterness between the two sides?
I forget. Oh, Kilmainham was full. I don't know. I suppose there could be over 300. They were in A wing and B wing. A wing was completely filled, and one thing about B wing, it used to horrify me, passing the padded cell, you know, thinking of people kept in that place. Of course, a lot of the padding was torn at that time. But
when you got out of prison afterwards, was there a lot of bitterness between the two sides?
We were all got out one after the other. We didn't know anything about going out, but we'd be called down to the governor's office and told we could go. And we all, I think they all got out that time. I'm not sure. I didn't know what happened afterwards, because I went back down to Kerry because there was no job, and the Republican headquarters had been raided and everything taken from it, and I didn't know where anyone or anything was, so I went back home to Kerry. But it was a sad period in Irish history. It was grand when they were fighting the British, but fighting their own people was a different matter altogether. It left an awful lot of bitterness down the years.
Looking back, do you think De Valera made the right decision?
But
Do you think De Valera was right to take the stand against the treaty?
What?
Do you think Mr. De Valera was right?
Mrs.
Mr. De Valera.
She was no.
Do you think Mr. De Valera?
Oh, Mr. De Valera. Oh, he was down through the country while we were in prison, but he was arrested, and I forget what jail he went to now. Was it Harbour Hill, or I forget now where he was, but I remember going to the prison one day with a parcel I got to take into him. And I remember when I went to the door, it wasn't the orderly, took an officer came and took the parcel up to the Dave. So I didn't hear much about things after that, you know. I don't know when I can't remember when exactly he was arrested. But my sister had been with him on the run, you know, they were all on the run. And I didn't see her when I came out of prison. She was away, and as I say, I went back to Kerry to rest in my laurels. Yes.
Just feel. Just say, how did she feel? Because it's too long. I don't think she'll
Yeah.
two words.
How did you feel at the time about what was happening, about the Civil War?
Oh, I felt awful. Everybody felt terrible because brothers fighting against brothers, and people that you trusted implicitly before that, you couldn't trust them anymore. And I don't know, it was an awful time, really. I remember the morning the forecourts was attacked. I mentioned that before. And ever after that, you were never safe. I used to be sent in dispatches to different places. Sometimes I didn't know the streets, but I was told to ask an old person, you know. And one time I was sent with a rifle to some place off Fleet Street, and I was given what they called a Macintosh in those days, and it was down to my toes. And I had the rifle here up my left side, and when I got down to Fleet Street, I didn't realise, I didn't know much about things at the time, but when I got down, I saw them, people hiding in doorways, and I hid in the doorway, and they were firing at one another from one end of the street to the other. So I was wondering what would happen if I was caught with my rifle. But you didn't mind being arrested, or what had happened during those days. You did it all for Ireland. Another time I was sent to Eccles Street to warn one of the men there. And of course, I wasn't so well up at the time. When I got up to Eccles Street, to the house, I saw a police car at the end of the street, and I thought to myself, I'm just in time. And I went up the steps of the house to warn George Gilmore. And the girl who answered the door kept me talking for a couple of minutes, and then I saw a a Free State soldier on the stairs, so I knew I was too late then. And I came back walking down to get the bus, and they were calling after me to halt, or they'd fire to halt. And I let on that I didn't think it was to myself they were speaking, and I kept going. But they overtook me and took papers from my bag that I used to get at night to hold. And I hurried back to the office then and told it. And I was sent with Seamus Sobrin to the National Land Bank that was in Dame Street at the time to withdraw some money. That's what the papers I had. I didn't know. So we got the money out and back safely. But
And how did you feel when you heard about the Free State government executing the 77 Republicans? How did you feel about the Republican prisoners who were all executed?
that was what?
There were 77 Republican prisoners.
Oh yes, oh yes. We had, while I was in Mountjoy, there were several executions. The 8th of December, the 4 men were executed. I actually saw the men who did it coming back from wherever they did it, and they were swinging their revolvers. And opposite from me, we had to climb, to try to climb a stool and a chair, and then onto the bars of the window to see out. And then I saw on a building, I think it was a canteen or something of soldiers. I saw a couple of soldiers there standing drinking tea. I suppose it was tea, it was the morning, of course. And a little way at the side, I saw a soldier kneeling in the sentry box. Whoever he was, I suppose he knew the men who had been executed. And there was a gloom over the prison, over the whole city that day. There was a dark cloud, and we didn't know, had no idea who was executed until sometime late in the afternoon. One of the wardresses told one of our prisoners, and the men, even the men prisoners, they were silent. They weren't even out on exercise or anything. I think they were all terribly shocked. And then others were executed afterwards until they had 77 there. So it was a dreadful time in Ireland. Dreadful. The man who followed me when I was coming from Macle Street was Major General Dalton. And afterwards, when he raided the office, he was down at the end of the table going through some letters and papers, and plain clothes, I suppose CID, came into him and whispered to him, and he looked up straight at me. I suppose the CID remembered that I was the one whom the papers were taken from. So
that's great. That's
yes,
very helpful, yeah.
It was a bad time.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, just ask about just to talk about De Valera generally and
Yeah.
your sister's involvement and maybe explain who she was?
Do you want to tell us about De Valera? And your sister was De Valera's secretary, is that right?
She was, yes. She was he went to America on some tour, and she was working for the Friends of Irish Freedom, and he took her on as a secretary. And then she came back to Ireland with him, and she came home for a week, and it was after Christmas, and everyone was wondering why she only stayed a week. And we all, even my younger sister on my side, were told she was going back to America, but he had come over at that time too, and she had gone up to Dublin too. So she was with him until just before she died. My niece then took over her work.
And did you know Mr. De Valera well?
Oh, I did. I was out at the house a couple of times. Oh, I knew Mr. De Valera very well, you know. He used to come to our flat sometimes to meet people that he wouldn't meet in government buildings. That was afterwards, I suppose. But I knew all the family. I knew all the